Hey, welcome back to Three Chords and the Truth. We're the weekly music podcast where we talk to local musicians about who they are, what they do, why they do it, and how they got to where they are today. I'm your host, Pete Kramer, as usual. And over there to my left is my good friend, Chris Dreschel, running the master control, make sure everything runs smoothly. Hopefully, sometimes it gets beyond our control because of certain gremlins that happen, but everybody knows how that works with technology. Anyway, don't forget to join and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube pages, Three Chords and the Truth. You can check out YouTube is where the bulk of our previous broadcast have been. You can go back and check out your favorite artist and the shows that we had with them. Also, our Facebook page is where you can find Jim Cadrina's weekly list of people and who they're, who's playing where and what times and stuff like that. He's, Jim is, as I say every week, he's everywhere all the time. That guy goes from, Grand Island to East Aurora. The next thing you know, he's in Lancaster, then he's over in West Seneca, Tonawanda, and he just goes and checks out all these bands and puts up the videos of them playing. And it's really kind of cool because it's like what the old Gusto used to be in the Buffalo News, and but he does it with his camera and he catches the live videos and stuff, so you can actually see these folks as well. As always, I always like to mention my friends, Lynn, Bev, Peggy, and Debbie at Special Spaces. They do great work for kids with cancer, where they go in and they redo their bedrooms for them, and just try to make their whole bout with cancer a little bit easier. There's also, as I always like to mention, we've just put a few new songs up on my band's website, eastwoodprojectmusic.com. There's all 7 of our albums up there with all this, what I like to say is really good classic rock that you've never heard yet and probably never will, because the radio business is all but dead. And we still got some, we're going to be off next week because next Tuesday is election day, and I'm sure there's going to be most of the country, most of every place is going to be watching what's going on with that. And after that, we're going to be not killing the show, but finishing up the season, ending it just before Thanksgiving. And then we'll come back again after the Super Bowl. But the last 2 shows are going to be with my buddies at Nashville North, really hot, popular, upcoming country band in Western New York. They're just kicking ass and taking names. They're really good. And also some guys that I've only met the drummer. I know Carson, but the guys from Applejack Band are going to be on for the last show of the season. And I believe that's the 20-something, whatever the last Tuesday is before Thanksgiving. But anyway, enough with that. I've got, normally I try to keep this to, local musicians, but I met this gentleman in a Facebook songwriting group, I don't know, 5-7 years ago or something like that. And there's so many people that write original music and they post their original music. A lot of it's really good. And some of it is not really good, but this next gentleman, I clicked on one of his videos one day. I'm like, this dude is the real deal. He's got the songs, he's got the songwriting ability, he's got the voice, he's got the guitar ability. And, it's just like, you listen to some of his songs and it's just like you're talking to an old friend. And that's the way I like to think of Karl Sky, as an old friend. So without further ado, let's bring Karl in. And, he's, like I said, he's the real deal. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, Pete, how you doing? Thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure. So what are you up to these days, my friend?
Busy just getting some material together. I'm probably going to start recording some more music coming up in November and December. I tend to record more in the winter than I do in the summer. It's primarily because I have my other business, which is general contracting. I do small remodels and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm working on getting some songs recorded. I have plenty of material. I mean, if I wanted to, I could dig back into the archives of my teen years. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to hear any of that, but I do have, it's probably like you probably got lyrics all over the place. Some of it has music, some of it doesn't. for some reason I can look at a set of lyrics that I wrote many moons ago, and then I know the melody immediately. It's weird how the lyrics and the music are always just like tied together for memory. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just like it's a catalyst. You just start reading a line, and then it's like, oh yeah, this is the melody for that. And it's like I didn't record it, but you know, I have plenty of stuff I'm planning on recording. I hope to get at least a half a dozen songs done in the next couple months or so, and then get those put out on Spotify and my webpage. So, you know, and I don't do albums per se, just because I guess, from what I'm told, albums are dead. So it's like, okay, no problem. I don't have to sit and like struggle putting together 10 songs that all fit together.
I don't even know why I call them albums.
Slam them out one at a time. Just, you know, whatever.
I should have mentioned this before. I said, you know, that I make an exception for Karl because we usually do local music. Karl's in Wisconsin. And if I'm not mistaken, that the room that you see Karl in, I'm pretty sure he built that room, if I remember correctly. Because
this is the lower level of our house up in northern Wisconsin, and the original cabin was all the inside is wood, just like you see here, ceilings and walls, and then we put an addition on a couple of years ago, and we have a little bit of drywall just to change it up a little bit. It all kind of ties together. So, yeah.
But I've seen the pictures that you've posted of your progress as you've been putting that whole project together. It's absolutely gorgeous, man. It's just like God's country up there. It's because are you near a lake as well? I think I've seen
there's
things up
the
canoeing.
The county that I'm in hosts about 1,300 some lakes in the county. So geographically, this is a stat.
1,300 lakes in the county.
1,300 lakes in this county.
Wow. I don't think we have 1,300 ponds.
There's the stat is such that I guess for a political geographic area, this has the most lakes in the entire world in this one like political area, you know, like one county. Yeah. So that's what I've read. And but yeah, you can't even begin to get to all the lakes, you know, that are around us. I mean, you're within a stone's throw of a lake in any direction you look.
Well, I got off topic a little bit because I want to go back to the music. Right. But what you said before about you know, stuff laying around, this little digital recorder that I've got. Yes. You know, I've got about 120 just ideas of melodies alone. And then I've got a folder about this big of lyrics that I've started to, you know, you just jot something down. And every once in a while you play something back, you get lucky and you can match one of the lyrics to one of these things. And, you know, you've got something. But no, how long have you been writing songs, man?
I started writing probably, I don't know, it's probably about 14, 15. So that would have been in 84, 85.
Okay.
And of course, right in the middle of that whole 80s music sound, you know, it started to shift by the time the late 80s came, and then it went a totally different direction in the 90s. And then I wasn't really even listening to anything. I was still writing, but I wasn't like listening to the radio. Actually, I went backwards in time. I did the opposite of what everybody else my age was doing, like just paying attention to what was on the radio. So about 1990, I'm buying Beatles albums because I wasn't as a kid, my parents weren't really into the Beatles. They had a couple of 45s and that was about it. And very narrow selection of music from them. They kind of like dropped off rock and roll, and then by the 70s they were listening to the country of that time, and so I heard all of it. But I started writing in the early 80s, and I don't know, it just kept going and going and going. And then I put me and another buddy that were going to high school together, he played bass. And so we got together and just started jamming, and that's probably when I started like showing him my songs. And then I had another friend of mine that played drums, and of course, you know. But then by the time we were starting to get together, we were all like going separate ways because it was post high school.
Yeah.
And one went in the military, and he was long gone. And so then if he come home, then he'd bring his drum kit over, and we get together and have a party like no other, you know. There was a lot of libations involved. Let's just say that.
I'll bet.
Yeah, and it was, you know how it is, jamming and drinking.
Yeah, I've been down that road before, my friend.
Yeah. So then, eventually within a few years, I was just primarily just writing stuff myself. I wasn't in touch with, these classmates anymore. And I didn't try to record anything because I didn't have the technology. I knew a guy that had one of those Tascam 4-track cassette recorders. And if you remember how crummy those sounded, it's like the tape hiss was just horrible.
I had one.
That's what I had. And I think in the early 90s, I was using that. I was borrowing that from somebody I knew. And I put together a few little demos. And, at that point in time, I was trying to send my music. First, I was thinking, I was so big-headed, I thought, oh, I'm gonna just try to get a recording contract, you know. And then I gave up on that because I thought, you know what, let's get realistic. Okay, let's just focus on songwriting. And then by about 2000, then I got a hold of several different publishers, and I finally connected with one that gave me the time of day and communicated with me throughout the whole process and kind of taught me how to write better. And that particular publisher was the one that first gave me publishing contracts on a few songs that I had written. And unfortunately, then fast forward 8 years to about 2007, 8, I was in a different mode of my life. So I had actually started in business doing my remodeling and new home construction. So my music kind of just like the guitar just went in the case. I didn't write for probably about a good 6-7 years. Really? And then my daughter starts singing. And I know you know who my daughter is because you
yes,
heard
I
her
do.
sing, and you wanted to get Allison on here. And unfortunately, that didn't work. Yeah. But hopefully in the future, or you can just get a hold of her. She'd probably come on and talk to you. But she started singing, and I was writing songs actually for her to just demo and just to get the songs to, different publishers and such. Yeah. And then shortly after that, this main publisher that I was working with, his name was Scotty Turner. And at one point in time, he was pretty big in Nashville. I mean, he was pretty big in LA in the 60s and in Nashville. I mean, he worked with guys like Harry Nilsson. He worked with all the country biggies. I mean, he worked with Tammy Wynette, Willie Nelson.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, he was a producer, so he was on the business side of things. He worked with Chet Atkins. He was really good friends with Chet Atkins, and I mean, I've got a lot of the memorabilia per se, as far as newspaper articles and stuff like that he had like forwarded to me, just to kind of like fill me in on, hey, what was going on back in the day. And it was like, the more he didn't like reveal all this stuff, it was like, what were you holding back for? Why didn't you tell me these stories? The best story, and I won't get into it too much because it's about him, and obviously he's no longer here, but he was actually part of the group in the early 60s, the Wrecking Crew. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he was part of, and that was a much bigger group than what that documentary actually shows. that was a lot of musicians, and they were all hired guns to play on all these records.
Right.
His story was to me, or I found actually after he died, he got a call at like 2 a.m. from Phil Spector.
Okay.
And Phil says, "Can you bring the Beast down here?" And now I didn't know what the hell the Beast was, but the Beast was this special guitar. And I forget I can't think of the name of it, but it was a rather large guitar that had a particular deep tone. And he brought that down, and he was sitting in on this session, and he said it took all night long. But he said, by morning, I knew we were into something that was really awesome. This song was awesome. So he walked out of there at like 7 a.m. and apparently that was, "You've Lost That Loving Feeling" by the Righteous Brothers.
Really?
So he played on that track.
No shit.
Yeah. So this is a publisher / producer, that I got to know, for quite some time, talked to him on the phone. We did a lot of correspondence through tape cassettes and talking, So like I would send my songs in, he would take that cassette, after my songs that I was showing him, he would record his responses, and this would go on for a good half hour. I mean, it was very lengthy, and it was like a lot quicker at that time than just, we didn't have texting, and phone calls were long distance, so it cost money.
Right.
So that's how he communicated a lot of what he wanted to tell me about, hey, maybe you should go this direction with this song, or hey, here's an example of a song that I think that your song is close to. Now listen to this tune and get some ideas from how they wrote this song, so you can formulate that into your tune, and just not really copying, but more so you're getting the idea of how do you approach your lyrics so that people can remember them and create this story that you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a very interesting guy.
Now, when is it? Do you put your? I'm stumbling over my own words. I'm sorry. Do you classify yourself, your songwriting, as to any one particular genre?
No, I don't know what.
Good answer.
I don't know what to call it. I mean, if I were to like sit down and just look at everything I've ever written, it goes all over the place. I mean, some of it can be country, some of it can be rock and roll.
Yeah.
I mean, it changes based on whoever I'm listening to for a period of time. Like, so in my case, I mean, I'd listen to a lot of people. Like, again, it was like that whole Beatles thing. I went backwards. So I went back to artists that I remember these songs from the radio in the 70s, but I didn't know the rest of their catalog, and I didn't really know that much about these artists. And so one of those guys, this was probably like late to like 2010 to 12 range, Gordon Lightfoot.
Mm-hmm.
So I latched on to a couple of his tunes because I recognized them, and then I'm just buying like a couple CDs of their material so I can listen to the rest of their repertoire. And it was like, wow, I really relate to this stuff, and I relate to the lyrics. I just like how it sounds, and yeah, I know it's 30 some years old at the time. I don't care, and it's like that influenced me to just write differently as I went along with songwriting, basically.
Well,
and so
I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I mean, my opinion is, and always has been, you can have very talented artists, but if they don't have a good song, kind of doesn't matter how good they are.
Right.
It's really all about the song.
Yes. Yeah. And well, like I was always told, especially from this publisher from years ago, that he said, if you have a good song, you should be able to take one instrument and a voice, and you ought to be able to move somebody with that song.
Yep.
Because the engineering and the production, that's all something else. That's a different beast. You leave that to the producers. So like I have a hard time like when I'm recording my own stuff because I just have my own ideas on how I should record them. but somebody else could probably take the song and totally change it so it fits a different genre and put a different vocal on it and convey it a different way. And that's primarily what my goal always was just to get my stuff recorded by other artists, and have come like, this close, and then, it's a big crapshoot when artists are trying to get an album put together, and they'll be like, okay, they're looking at yours, but you got to realize they're looking at 500 songs to put on that album when they're searching. And so by the time, you might last like 3/4 of the way through the process, and it's like, oh, it's hopeful they might take your song, and then they just drop it because they're just looking for those top 10 or 12 songs that are killer. And it's not that the other ones were bad, because obviously they made it into that group. So I've always made it into that. Okay, maybe 50 to 70 songs that we're going to look at, and we really like these songs.
Yeah.
And but that's just the way it goes, because it's a heavily competitive market, and it is what it is, So I just keep writing, and I like it. I'm not really writing so I can get a cut. That's not why I'm doing any of this. I mean, sure, would getting a cut be great by someone? Like, they find my song and say, hey, I think this artist would like this song and they could really do this justice. That'd be fantastic. But I really don't go into writing songs thinking about that anymore. I used to for a very long time. And then I'd always change the way I'd write so I could pigeonhole it. And that was primarily in the country genre, because it's just like, you got to have a specific formula to the song. It's got to have a certain sound, and now I just kind of like, whatever hits me at a moment when I'm writing, I just do it. And it's like, if I like it, I'm going to record it.
Okay. So when you record it, do you just record it, just yourself, or do you work with other people?
Oh yeah. I'll usually use the iPad or the phone just to, typically I'll come up with music first, but although in the past couple of years I've been doing lyrics first. So I'm trying to like retrain my brain to stop doing the same thing over and over, just for something different. So generally I would always come up with a melody, or I'd come up with the entire song musically, but no words. Then I'd sit down and I'd sit and listen to that, and I'm like, what does this sound like? Is this, what type of song is this? And I don't know. I can't explain it. You probably can't explain it either. It just happens. It just happens. It's like you plugged your cord into the universe, and all of a sudden it's a big download, and you get this whole thing. And sometimes it happens in a half an hour, and I have to just maybe go back and tweak it, over a period of a week or two. I'll just let it sit and think, is that good enough? Sometimes it takes forever to write a song, and I'll get like 2 verses down the chorus, and I can't get the other 2 verses.
And then you spill other ones out in 10 minutes.
What's that?
You spell other ones out. You just spill them out in 10 minutes. All of a sudden, you got a whole song in 10 minutes. The other one, I've had some that have taken me 5 years to write. But
so I usually like to have them flow. I mean, I'm more comfortable with it flowing. I'm not the kind of guy that says, okay, Tuesday afternoons at 3:00, I'm going to sit down and write a song. That's why I could probably never, even if I could get my foot in the door in Nashville, which, I tried to do all that, several years ago, but I probably didn't try hard enough. So that shows you how much I really wanted it. I wouldn't go for the whole probably, hey, let's have a writing session with 4 people here.
Oh, no, I could never do that.
I have written, I don't mind writing with like one other person, and I've done that several times with a few different people, and I don't have a problem with that. But if it was a scheduled thing where, you got to show up 3 days a week and you're going to sit, and that's, to me, not how creativity comes.
Right.
But it's a business, and that's why they do it that way. And it's not like they don't call it the music creativity.
No, they do not.
It's a business.
Have you ever seen the video of Billy Joel's last play at Shea?
No, I haven't.
You should check it out because McCartney is in there, because it was a thing where McCartney wanted to do it, but he wasn't sure if his plane was going to land on time or whatever. But anyway, they put this little interview in there, and something you said before made me think about this, because that's not even close to what I was trying to talk to you about. But he said, this is Sir Paul, in his words, in music, there's something magic in what we do. And I don't care if it's Paul McCartney and Billy Joel or Pete Kramer and Karl Sky.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're taking something you're pulling stuff out of the air and turning it into, even though a song is not necessarily tangible, it's something that you can listen to afterwards. And the whole process of putting it together, the creativity.
Yeah, that's what's great about it.
Isn't it?
Because it's like when I build a house, I have to have raw materials.
Yep.
They all have to be, they come from a sawmill. It all has to be cut to a certain width and length and blah, blah, blah. And then I take it from there and cut it. But when you write songs, it's you and your instrument.
Yep.
And that's it. And you're just like sitting there, and most of the time I would have to say, this stuff just comes to you. It's like someone just spoke into your ear and gave it to you.
Yes. Yep.
So I really think it's, it's almost kind of like a woo.
Well, no, exactly. Because
but it is. It's almost like it's a spiritual thing almost. I mean, it just happens and you can't explain it. You can call it woo or like, having the voice of God talk to you or some angel or whatever it is, but it just comes to you and you know what I'm saying.
Well, I was just going to say that, because you and I can talk about that and know exactly what that's all about. To try to talk to somebody who doesn't know this, they look at you like you got three heads. It's like, no, I get what you're saying, man. I totally understand it.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to. Well, whatever your art is, if you're a painter or or if you sew. If you're talking to someone in the group that does, like an artist that paints to a person that has never picked up a brush, they're not going to understand, like, how do you do that? How do you make those brush strokes so like effortlessly? It's just like it just happens,
Well, and I don't know about you, but with myself, I mean, there's a few friends of ours that are on different Facebook pages. They're like, oh, you got so many friggin' guitars. I really don't. I've got 7. But they all
beat me.
They all have different sounds, and there's some songs that I will write because of whatever guitar I'm playing at that particular time.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm playing my Epiphone Casino, I would not write the same song as I would on my Takamine 12-string, and vice versa. And there's just it depends on the sound. And I'll say the same thing. I'm not a multi-instrumentalist. I don't know if you are. I envy anybody that is, but I mean,
I pretend to be one on TV.
Well, that works.
Or wherever I am. No,
but I mean, if you hit something on a piano, I mean, a C chord on a piano is the same as a C chord on a guitar, but it sounds completely different.
It's going to evoke a different feeling.
Yes.
To create a different kind of song.
Yep.
And so it's like, we just take guitars. If you have an electric guitar versus an acoustic, if I'm thinking of a rock song, the first thing I'm going to do is go pick up my Les Paul electric and plug it into my amp, and I'm going to find the right distortion, and I'm going to noodle on it and figure out, and those are things you're not going to figure out using an acoustic, because you can't get the same tone and sound and the way the strings play, because you're running it through an amplifier, and you know this scenario. Yeah. But those different instruments really help you write differently. And I do have a keyboard, but it's an interface keyboard that works with my computer and Pro. So I mean, I usually primarily use the keyboard more in my case for, all right, this is my background filler stuff on a track that I'm recording. You know, I'll either have like a Hammond B3, you know, going in the background, or it'll just be a light piano, even if it's just little. I like creating the songs. I mean, really, that's, besides writing songs, I love recording music. I mean, that's, if I could do that for a living, I'd be like a pig in a sty. I mean, it would be awesome.
I know what you mean.
I love creating stuff with all the tracks, and I like experimenting with sounds. And you know, you got bouncing tracks, you got stuff in your left channel and your right channel, and then you fill it all in between the two channels,
right,
with the right. And it's always a learning. I mean, I'm still learning. I mean, there's no end to the learning of what you could do or should have done. Because every time I get a song finished, I'm always going back and being hypercritical of, oh, you know what, I should have done this.
Right.
But you know what? I've just learned to say, it is what it is. Most people are not going to like hear some of these really minor anomalies, you know, with EQ and all that business in a recording. Whereas I'm just like, I got to like shut it off because I go crazy. It's like, oh, dang, you know, that instrument's not standing out as much because you're blending all these instruments. They all have to, the equalization has to be slightly different to make them stand out. Because if you just run them all at the same level,
you can't do that.
They're all EQ'd the same, it'll be a mishmash sound.
Yep.
You won't ever have everything standing out. And that's been like the hardest thing for me. I wouldn't say I've lost a ton of hearing, you know, working in construction, but I'm guaranteeing you I have lost some high frequencies. So I really have to like record something, play with it in the EQ department, mix it, make a copy, put it in the car, listen to it. It's like, it's too boomy. It's like it's too much. I got to back off on the mastering, or the, you know, the just the overall loudness of the track or whatever. So I'm constantly listening to other tracks that are very similar to what I'm trying to achieve as far as like balance, and then I'll use that as like a reference track,
right, and
do it that way. But I would say, yeah, next to writing songs, I love recording. I mean, I'd do that all day, every day.
I have to agree.
And my wife would not like it because are you ever going to come up?
Well, how about if I ask you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you kindly indulge us and do one of your songs for us?
Sure. I'm going to do a song that I just released. It's on Spotify right now.
Okay.
And if you go to Spotify, just type in Karl Sky, Karl with a K. And
you got a website or anything on there too, Karl? Or
yeah, Karl, www.karlskysongs.com.
Okay.
And if you go to that, you'll be able to find links to everything else I have, to my Spotify, to Instagram, to Facebook.
Okay.
But it's primarily Karl Sky Songs, you know, wherever you go online.
Okay.
I'm even on TikTok, believe it or not.
Oh, all right, cool.
But all right, so this song I wrote, it's called Maybe Tomorrow. When you're talking about songwriting, boom, this was one of those. I really don't remember specifically how I came up with this song. I think the melody came, and within 10 minutes, I wrote the whole song. It happened that fast. And then I messed around with, you know, I learned another little trick here. You can do your drop D, but just go up to the second fret and then just leave the E open. If you can hit that in range, that way you don't have to retune your guitar over and over.
I do that all the time. Yep.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to write songs in.
Yep.
Never meant to let you down, burden your mind with such a frown. Only I could mend the tear. Paid no attention, didn't care. But lately I've been thinking, I've been praying, I'd be wishing yesterday away. Maybe tomorrow will be the day. Born out of time, my soul it seems. Never seem to tell into the sea. My soul's connected with the past. We share a heartache that hits fast. The cycle of the seasons spin. We'll meet ourselves come spring again. Our hearts renew the ties that bind. Like the morning sun's for sure to shine. But lately I've been thinking, I've been praying, I'd be wishing yesterday away. Maybe tomorrow will be the day. Never meant to let you down, burden your mind with such a frown. If only I could mend the tear, paid no attention, didn't care. But lately I've been thinking, I've been praying, we'd be wishing yesterday away. Maybe tomorrow will be the day. Maybe tomorrow will be the day. Maybe tomorrow will be the day.
Dude, are you kidding me? That was freaking great. And I'm listening to that, and I'm listening. I'm hearing, oh man, there could be some harmonica fills in there and stuff like that. That was Maybe Tomorrow by Karl Sky, man. And that's why.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, you can check it out on Spotify. I just released that in September. Yeah, take a listen, and you can go through the rest of my songs. I probably have, I don't know, there's probably about 30 plus songs on there right now.
Yeah.
that are on Spotify. That's probably like the place where you're going to find most of my music right now. Plus Bandcamp. That's another platform, which if you go to my website at karlskysongs.com, you'll find a link to Bandcamp, and I probably got about 50 of them uploaded to there.
Yeah, well, that's why I said at the beginning of the show, this guy is the real deal, because he didn't have a band behind him or anything like that. He just simply him and his guitar, and it sounded so amazing, dude. That was
I appreciate it.
Really good. No, thank you, because I'm glad you shared that with everybody, because that was a really cool song.
Well,
Maybe
thanks.
Tomorrow by Karl Sky. That was so cool. Anyway, well, we're getting close to the end here, and I just I want to thank you for coming back on again. And I was only kidding when I said about on one condition I'll have you back on, as if your daughter would come as well. But
I really tried, but it just did not work.
Yeah, but now, do you have any someplace that you could find the duets that you guys have done? Because obviously you've posted them. That's the only reason.
Yes, on Bandcamp. On Bandcamp, you should be able to find some songs. Actually, where my daughter Allison Sky is singing on some of those tracks.
Okay.
Some are songs that I wrote, and then I just had her sing and perform on. And then other ones, there's a couple that she has written, or that we have written together. You know, all different ways. You know, some are hers, some are mine, some are both of ours, and got them recorded.
And that's pretty cool too, because to be able to do that with one of your kids, man, that's magic.
It is.
That
My original dream. My original dream was to have all my kids play something. Well, I got one out of four. Isn't bad.
Karl, I'll tell you what, man, this has been great. I mean, we could go on like this forever, because just
man, if I'm ever out in New York, I'm gonna look you up, because I wouldn't mind hanging out for the weekend with you. You know,
I would totally dig that.
And
totally
I'd like to check out the music scene out there. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, because it's different every place, you know, because I think you and I talked about this before, that, you know, to go out and play. I just saw something the other day where it said that, you know, one of the bravest things a man can do is to stand in front of a microphone with an acoustic guitar. And I'm like, well, I would have thought going into the Marines with a shotgun or something. But I, you know, there's some truth to that. But
the more you do it, it's, you know, it's not as nerve wracking, but yeah, it is. I mean, you don't have anybody else to lean on. You know, there's no other band members to, like, you can't like, oh, I just missed a couple things, but no one notices when you're in a band. But if you're all by yourself, you're in the spotlight, and yeah, it's a little tension, but it's not you know, once you do it, you know, I need to do it more, you know, but when wintertime around here, the venues get a little bit thin because the tourism goes away. So
okay.
Summertime's the big time up here to play. So I play, you know, quite a bit in the summer, and hopefully next summer I'll play a little bit more, and eventually I'll be playing like all the time, like at least every week. You know, once or twice.
Around here, it's a little bit different, because in the summertime is the time when all the bars open up for all the bands, and in the winter, that's when you get the solo acoustic musicians that come out, and there's more of that going on. But, you know, different.
Yeah, we got a little bit of both. You know, bands and solo artists up here as well.
Yeah, cool. Karl, thanks a lot, man. This has been
great.
Appreciate
it. I'm just glad you had me on, and look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, we'll absolutely do that. Keep on writing those great songs, because again, I like that a lot. Again, you know, don't forget the next couple of weeks, not next week because election day, but then the week after that is going to be Nashville North. And the week after that is the Applejack Band. And one of the things I think is really cool about doing the show is that when we get done, I always wind up with about 3 or 4 people that are like, hey, could I be on the show again the next time? And we're starting to book again for right after the Super Bowl. So that's really cool. Again, thank you to Karl Sky. Come back and see us again the next couple of weeks when we finish up this portion of the season. As always, support local music. And thanks for tuning in to 3 Chords of the Truth. Peace out.